Yes, welcome to the No State Project live from my fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. And I'm glad to be with you here. I am actually going to record on the back end here the audio and probably, get it, maybe not today, but I'll get it posted on the website. I've got a lot of stuff I want to cover here today, as usual. And some shocking news. There's still going to be an appeal, and we'll see what happens. But it's always good when you hear something where some judges are trying to do the right thing, where the abuse is just so bad. But I want to bookend this, I guess, because I don't think I've ever actually read directly from the complaint that was filed against me. And I think it goes in here because this is really some cases where prosecutors, which are lawyers, in good standing in their respective bar association, just a labor union, and I'll get to the case title and everything. They have acted and tend to act so egregiously and actually hurting people. Prosecutors can literally destroy people's lives, and they enjoy what is called absolute immunity, even qualified immunity. That because their job is so important, and they're such usually unimpeachable characters. Just the salt of the earth. We never do anything wrong. They have to be free to prosecute and to do it just based on the facts and our politics and our prejudice and this, that they have to be given immunity to do literally anything they want. And we know that one prosecutor in American history, Ken Anderson, put an innocent man, knowingly prosecuted an innocent man, sent him to prison for murder for over 25 years. And what the legal system was in such outrage about that they gave him 10 days in jail. You get more than 10 days in jail if you have marijuana. But if you're a lawyer and a prosecutor, you're one of the privileged class, then you get to, if you're caught, you get a slap on the wrist. And if it makes news, 10 days of jail, not prison, but jail. And we're sure that he was protected. He was probably at the office for the jailer. He's probably spending his time outside of his cell. Because we know if you're really good, when you really got the goods in politicians, and you're really dealing with some high-level bureaucrats, then you can solicit and you can molest and you can traffic in children, and you won't even have to spend most of the day in jail if you're caught and put on, and prosecuted at all. You can get a sweetheart deal, and all your co-conspirators, immunity. So this particular lawyer in Kansas, and he's actually licensed by or has a bar membership in Texas, and I'm not going to mention his name, although he could just lie. The guy lies with such ease. So before I get into these stories, I want to set the stage here, because what I've said is just fake outrage. Because if what I'm doing, just causes this man to pull his hair out, and he just can't take it, and there's no evidence of me hurting anybody. Wait till I get to to the headline here. I'm really interested to know if he's going to go and file complaints, because he just can't take it anymore. The abuse of these lawyers is just, I can't take it anymore. I have researched many conspiracy theorists. What conspiracy theories do I even talk about here on the show? And if I do talk about a conspiracy, it's always with evidence. I have researched many conspiracy theorists and scam artists. Working in the legal community, I have never felt compelled to file a complaint like this before. Stevens is a predator targeting the most desperate defendants and charging them money for incompetent legal advice. By targeting small-time defendants, he seems to have escaped the notice of the State Bar of Arizona. But those defendants are still facing serious charges and are the people least able to bear the consequences of being given such terrible guidance. Oh my. Stephen seems to be scamming desperate people for over a decade. I strongly feel that only the continued inaction of the State Bar of Arizona has allowed him to operate for so long. Oh my gosh. I hope that you take expeditious action to prevent further abuse of litigants in Arizona and elsewhere by this unlicensed, unethical, and dangerous pseudo-lawyer. Thank you. I think I vomited in my mouth a little bit there. So, the most desperate defendants, I don't know. I've had a lot of people call the show. A lot of people I've worked with have called the show. How many, does anybody, yes, Spencer, I read this particular part because I love the part where he says that I am a predator targeting defendants. That goes in just beautifully with what I'm going to be talking about. But before I get into that, what's interesting here, the most desperate defendants, well, let's see. When people come to me and they're in trouble, and you guys have all heard me say this on the show, when it's really serious and it's obvious to anybody that they can't possibly defend themselves, even from a minor infraction, what do? I recommend they go to a lawyer. They pay somebody. In fact, I have made many referrals to Mark Victor here in Mesa, Arizona. Oh, we're not going to let the facts get in the way of this. I mean, what a disgrace. I've written some things that I'm not proud of, but man, that is just sad. And an adult man wrote this. He seems to have escaped a notice of the State Bar of Arizona. That's not true. They've attacked me twice before. But again, the facts just don't mean anything to this guy. The bar attacked me twice. So, and I was able to defeat it. They backed off 2 times. Again, I've even mentioned the name of the attorney who did it. It was Fran Johansson. Fran Johansson. That may be something that this fat, bold lawyer doesn't know about. Apparently, he doesn't get the context. He's just out to smear. I'm a scam artist. It doesn't matter that we've had tremendous success all across all political lines. Doesn't matter. You go to England, Australia. I've posted the actual documents. I posted the actual documents. Where am I scamming people? By targeting Home bombing, and we'll get to you in just a second. By targeting small-time defendants, he seems to have escaped the notice. Wow. And are the people least able to bear the consequences of being given such terrible guidance? Yeah, because even in a worst-case scenario, it's a few $100. They're the least able. He seems to have been scamming desperate people for over a decade. I strongly feel that only the continued inaction. You see? Is the lawyer going to sit there? Is he going to call the bar and say, hey, what is this what Stevens is saying? I was watching the show, listening to the show. He said he's been attacked twice before. Is that true? Yeah, it actually is. He's absolutely correct. Yes, Fran Johansson was the one was the one that was communicating directly with Mark Stevens. And yes, the Bar Association did come after him twice. So the continued inaction continue. So is that one more point that this bald, fat lawyer? Is that, is that just that's another set of facts that you got wrong. Another set of facts. I am unlicensed. That's true. He got that right. Unethical? Really unethical? Dangerous? And I can tell you folks, there is no evidence whatsoever to show any kind of causation that I caused anyone to get hurt. Not a single fact to show causation. Not a single one. But that's what lawyers do. So I know, Home Bumming, that you're on. You're going to have to be patient with me. I just gave this whole introduction. So I got to get to where I'm going with that. And this is from techdirt.com. Tim Cushing is reporting here. Appeals court says prosecutors who issued fake subpoenas to crime victims aren't shielded by absolute immunity. Nice. Now, unfortunately, the Court of Appeals this is a Fifth Circuit because it's a case from New Orleans. Unfortunately, there is still one more appeal. So the United States Supreme Court may disagree. And if it gets to the Supreme Court and it is reviewed, they're more than likely going to overturn this. But it's nice to see some judges, and I think it was a 3-0 decision. I think it was the entire panel. But get this. Again, I want you to keep in mind when I go through this, I want you to keep in mind what I've been accused of by this lying, fat, bald lawyer who works for a university in Kansas. Stevens is a predator targeting the most desperate defendants and charging them money for incompetent legal advice. It's so incompetent, he doesn't take even one paragraph of his complaint, not a single paragraph, to show that the argument in my position is actually false in any way, where I got the facts and the logic. Doesn't even try to address just calls it frivolous, just says it's incompetent. Yes, because it's incompetent because a lawyer said so. Okay, so keep this in mind when we go through this. He just couldn't take it anymore. He was compelled to file this because I'm a predator targeting the most desperate defendants and charging money. Okay. The New Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office issued fake subpoenas to witnesses and crime victims. Unlike subpoenas used in ongoing prosecutions, these were used during the investigation process to compel targets to talk to law enforcement. They weren't signed by judges or issued by court clerks, but they did state in bold letters across the top, a fine and imprisonment may be imposed for failure to obey this notice. Impose. I think they did that right. Recipients of the bogus subpoenas sued the DA's office. In early 2009, a federal court refused to grant absolute immunity to the DA's office for its use of fake subpoenas to compel cooperation. See, that's the thing. When you claim immunity, you are not denying the tort. All immunity does is deny the court jurisdiction to hear the tort. But it's not a dispute to the facts. It is not a denial of the tort. The court pointed out that issuing its own subpoenas containing threats of imprisonment bypassed an entire branch of the government to give the DA's office power it was never supposed to have. Allegations that the individual defendants purported to subpoena witnesses without court approval, therefore describe more than a mere procedural error or expansion of authority. Rather, they describe the usurpation of the power of another branch of government. I would say that lawyers are part of the judicial branch. They're officers and counsels of the court. Or is that frivolous? Okay? Just using their own words against them. The court stated that by extending immunity would be a judicial blessing of this practice rather than a deterrent against continued abuse by the DA's office. The DA's office appealed. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals took the case, but it seemed very unimpressed by the office's assertions. Here's how it responded during the oral arguments earlier this year. Gosh, I would love to see video of that. The threat of incarceration with no valid premise, Judge Jennifer Elrod said at one point during arguments. She later drew laughter from some in the audience when she said, "This argument is fascinating." Why just get, I know she's being sarcastic, but why not just say this is frivolous? I would, if there was any justice at all, these judges would have put counsel in jail for contempt. These are pretty serious assertions of authority they did not have, said Judge Leslie Southwick, who heard arguments with Elrod and Judge Katharina Haynes. Wow. Based upon the pleadings before us at this time, it could be concluded that defendant's creation and use of the fake subpoenas was not intimately associated with the judicial phase of the criminal process, but rather fell into the category of those investigatory functions that do not relate to an advocate's preparation for the initiation of a prosecution or for judicial proceedings. Defendants, meaning the prosecutors, were not attempting to control witness testimony during a break in judicial proceedings. Instead, they allegedly used fake subpoenas in an attempt to pressure crime victims and witnesses to meet with them privately at the office and share information outside of court. Defendants never used the fake subpoenas to compel victims or witnesses to testify at trial. Well, why would you? You just get a real subpoena. Such allegations are of investigative behavior that was not intimately associated with the judicial phase of the criminal process. In using the fake subpoenas, individual defendants also allegedly intentionally avoided the judicial process that Louisiana law requires for obtaining subpoenas. The case returns to the lower court, where the DA's office will continue to face the state law claims it hoped it would be immune from. The Court of Appeals doesn't say the office won't ultimately find some way to re-erect its absolute immunity shield, but at this point, it sees nothing on the record that says prosecutors should be excused from being held responsible for bypassing the judicial system to threaten crime victims and witnesses with jail time. Now, I'm just reporting what the Fifth Circuit said, and this is it's a class action, I guess. Renata Singleton, Mark Mitchell, Lazonia Baham, Tiffany LaCroix, Fiona Bailey, Silence is Violence, Jane Doe, and John Rowe, versus Leon Canizzaro Jr. in his official capacity as District Attorney of Orleans Parish, and in his individual capacity, David Pipes, Ian Dover, Jason Napoli. We're going to have how many Italians in this? Arthur Mitchell, Tiffany Tucker, Michael Trummel, Inga Petrovich, Laura Rodriguez, Matthew Hamilton, Grayman Martin, and Sarah Dawkins. Wow. Wow. Let me put that into the chat. Now, this is pretty bad. This is, you're talking obstruction, deprivation of rights on the color of law. This is some serious abuse. And there's some reported in NOLA.com. There's a little more from the actual, and in the link that I just put in there, the link in there, if you scroll down, the actual court ruling is in there. Judge Leslie Southwick said he had a copy of a fake subpoena before him and called it a lie. The other judges were just as harsh. What's the classic task of the prosecutor here? Asked Judge Jennifer Elrod. Drafting fake documents? That's not a classic task of the prosecutor. I don't think that they would have been as nice. In fact, I know they would have been as nice when someone like me is before them. They're usually shouting. They're making all sorts of threats. Courts have consistently found that just because there's some prosecutorial goal, that conduct that is certainly not prosecutorial is not immune. That's not what the Supreme Court has ruled on. This court has said time and again, it doesn't matter if the particular action was lawful or unlawful, proper or improper. Now, wow. Our attorney made clear that we were fulfilling our legislative obligation to interview essential witnesses before trial, spokesman Ken Daly said. Encouraging essential witnesses to come to court and stay engaged in the process is critical to the fair operation of the criminal justice system. Yeah, making fake subpoenas and false threats. Yeah, oh, okay, yeah, of course they're going to defend it. They're being stripped of immunity. Meanwhile, Chamblee Ryan said it was clear that the Fifth Circuit judges understood that what the prosecutors were doing here was not part of their role as advocates, which is what immunity is supposed to protect. Wow. So, yeah. The complainant against me. You're going to file a complaint against all these lawyers? You just can't stand it anymore? You just... And this is just... Yes, this that's for the complainant. I wore this specific because I knew I was going to be talking about it, so I wore the Harvard Law shirt. Is this going to keep? Does anybody here in the audience? Does anyone think for a second that he's going to file complaints against those prosecutors? I just can't take it anymore. I am compelled. Well, if I'm guilty as charged. What are these prosecutors doing it as a matter of procedure? It's SOP with these people. SOP. One could argue that one of these victims could file a RICO charge against the office. Because apparently they did this multiple times and it was just standard operating procedure. Have the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office declared to be a criminal enterprise. The facts are certainly there, but I doubt for a second our bald justice warrior from Kansas is losing sleep over what these prosecutors did, because prosecutorial misconduct is at epidemic proportions, and it has been for years. And that's not my opinion. That's the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals opinion. Laws are for suckers. I think I saw someone. Yeah. Well, the thing is, we should strive, at least for me, we strive to be moral and ethical and live our lives based on the basic principle of live honestly, injure no one, give every man his due, and measure the actions against that. Not the law, not political law. Because if the political law is consistent with that, it's not necessary. And if it is in contrary to that, then it's repugnant and shouldn't be followed anyway. So that was quite something to get that. And I'll talk about the other stuff later. I kept home bumming it, hoping that I'm going to be able to hear him, since my headphones finally decided, those $4 headphones decided to finally break down. So home bumming it. You still with us?
Yep.
All right. What do you got for us today?
I don't give up that easy. Come on.
Well, yeah. There's some people that, and all right, I'll save that for after. But how are things going? Are you calling about a forbidden topic?
I'm out here in Arizona, and no, I'm not talking about a forbidden topic.
Well, actually, I'm trying to be funny. There are no the standard forbidden topic. We're not going to discuss religion. That's fine. But as far as the other things, I'll discuss whatever I want on the damn show at this point. So if you want to discuss the COVID hoax, so-called, you're free to do that. And if you want to discuss other, veganism, Not that you would, but I'm just saying, if anybody wants to call and discuss those subjects at this point.
Veganism is a religion. I deny.
Okay.
All right. No. Okay. So if you can't beat them, join them, man. I was thinking. By the way, I'm enjoying Arizona. It's people are pretty decent out here. Granted, there's still some bigotry. Um, they got a decent sense of humor. Every time I see somebody with a mask on, I ask them if they think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Just to make sure. Uh, some of them say, we won't know until we get to heaven.
I think we could be pretty certain, given who he was and the circumstantial evidence, that all the footage just, come on. I mean, just looking at the
suspicion.
Yeah, the circumstantial evidence is pretty damn strong that this guy did. No, I don't buy. And most people that I've spoken to, I don't know if I've ever spoken to somebody that. Maybe I just haven't spoken to about it, but no one has ever personally said to me, I think Epstein killed himself. I believe the official story. But
I've heard one person say that, and the ones, a lot of people that wear masks go, we don't know if he killed himself or not. And then the other one is, what is it? Killed himself, we don't know. And who's Jeffrey Epstein? No, I heard that once.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Well, right now I'm working as a janitor. I went and I got my CDL, my Class A CDL, with double, triple trailer, hazmat, and tanker endorsements so that I could scrub toilets for a living.
Well, I'm glad you called, but just take a brief moment and settle this. You told me, because I was frankly shocked at this, that there is, at least out here, a freezing hire on trucking jobs.
Some companies have frozen hiring new drivers because in order to train a new driver, what you have to do is you have to put them in a truck with a current driver. And that basically means that you're living in those trucks with somebody else. And there's not even 6 feet to distance yourself from them. So the current drivers, since a lot of them, if not all of them, are pretty much brainwashed. No offense. I know you believe that the coronavirus is absolutely a threat to humanity and we should all keep our social distance. But so a lot of the drivers are refusing to take on new drivers because they're worried that they might get infected with the flu. And so companies like Schneider have told me that they are suspending their new hire program for now. Same with CRST, Gardner, and so far, and US Express. So there are some companies that are just outright not doing it. Other ones, I'm not so sure about.
Okay, but yes, but you can speak from personal experience that there is, there are some freezing, and that makes sense. Okay, so to get back to what you were talking about, and I had I always had great respect for the working man. I mean, I grew up, poor. I'm where I'm still, but I thought we had a guy named Vinny at my high school who was a janitor, and he was like the coolest guy alive. He had a voice like he had just swallowed broken glass. Man, everyone loved Vinny, and so I'm glad you got that. Hopefully, it's safe and it's not something that you're going to be exposed to any contamination.
Well, okay. So we do wear gloves. We are we spray down the place with disinfectant, and then we use a acid to clean things. So we disinfect, then we use the acid, and then we have what's called a neutralizer that we literally mop down the walls, everything that you touch, anything that you could touch, with the exception of the floor, which once again we use acid in order to clean that.
Jeez.
So I'm probably not. You know, I'm more exposed to feces and to hepatitis and to um, uh, uh, use tampons than I am to the coronavirus. I'm
All
not
right.
really worried about that.
Thanks for calling.
Now, hold on.
Oh my. All right, so
Yeah.
let's get into the why you called.
Well, okay. So I was thinking, you can't beat them, join them, right? And I'm looking around. Now, I've been an ordained minister for the last 3 years from the Universal Life Church. And the Universal Life Church has basically one rule: do what's right. And, whatever is right is up to the individual, I guess. That's just, I think it's vague on purpose. But so, yeah, I'm an ordained minister. I was looking it up, and the Universal Life Church is not necessarily accepted in all 50 states. There's about 4 of them that have decided that they don't. I think it was one of them was New York that decided that they were not going to accept the ordainment of that church. And so I also found out that some of them want you to be a justice of the peace. And I was looking up, what a justice of the peace is and what it takes to be a justice of the peace. And it's not anything that you have to be a bar member for.
Right.
You do have to take a class or course and get some sort of a certification to do it.
They had a guy at the East Mesa Justice Court. I think it was East Mesa, I think. And he was a used car salesman.
Yeah.
And he did not know anything. And I don't know what's worse. So some argue, well, the reason why he was so bad was because he didn't know he wasn't a lawyer. But I have had the most horrific things that I've heard about in court have all been far worse than what this guy did. I'd take the used car salesman, any day of the week over a lawyer as a judge.
Really?
Oh
man, I didn't know there was much difference.
Look, I have had judges screaming at me. I had one, and I got a witness to this. Okay. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He wasn't a lawyer, and he worked at the Mesa Municipal Court. And I had gone in with a friend, and this is back in the mid-90s, and video cameras are a lot bigger than they are now. And she was able, no metal detectors, nothing. She went in with the camera, and she was filming. This guy went absolutely ballistic. He was throwing books at me. Okay. I honest to goodness truth, throwing books at me. And I'm thinking, great, we're going to get this on the 6 o'clock news, absolutely well, he was crazy. I wish I could remember his name. She wound up being so terrified of the judge because of his demeanor that she never actually hit record, even though she was standing there, it looked like she was recording, but she was absolutely terrified. And we get out and she was having a panic attack. I thought we had to take her to the hospital. So, but I've had experiences with judges where they call security to stand, the cops to stand directly behind me. I've done that. Yeah. I had a tax court judge tell me, and while he was screaming at me in the tax court when it was sitting in Salt Lake, He said, he says, if you open up your mouth one more time, you're going to jail. You understand? And don't say a word. Just nod or and turn your, do not open your mouth for the rest of the, come on, get a grip. So the lawyers have always been far worse than this justice of the peace who just, always ruled in favor of the government. I mean, he was just a rubber stamp, but he wasn't yelling and screaming and making threats. I mean, look what the guy did up in Dick Noble up in Michigan.
Well,
60 days for asking a question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had judges. I think I got recorded actually, where one judge was yelling at me and ordered me to go to another court. When I was questioning jurisdiction, and caught her actually lying. I mean, just outright caught her, just flat out lying, and she did not like that. She was newly appointed, kind of a pro temp, I think is what they call them, right? And so she was a pro temp, and she didn't like me going into arraignment, questioning jurisdiction right off the bat, and showing her that I had a unsigned plea of guilty, and that I was willing to plead, and she didn't. She was very unhappy with me. So I've had him yelling at me before too.
Well,
I had him yelling at me when I went back after I put in an affidavit to recuse a judge. And he was yelling at me about that.
So I'm very unhappy with you right now too, but I'm not going to yell at you.
What'd I do?
Come on, that was funny.
I picked up the tampons.
Okay, so wow. I hope that landed at least with the audience. So are you thinking? So you're thinking of running for office?
Well, yeah, get the certification, run for office, try to become a justice of the peace in the county that I want to buy land in, and then start a monastery so that I could, because I remember in that reading that one case where the guy's over in Ohio and he went to court to be found alive because he was found legally dead so that his ex-wife could get I think it was SSI for their kids, so she could get money to support her kids. And then he popped up out of nowhere a few years later, and he's standing there in court, and the court's denying him the right to be, alive. And so one of the things I read in there was that if you join a monastery, you're legally considered to be dead.
I don't think people who, monks or whatnot are going to be considered legally exempt from legal process.
Well, look at the Catholic Church, man.
Their immunity isn't because they're a church.
A lot of stuff. Come on. So go ahead and get some land. Be a justice of the peace in the area that I'm going to buy the land. Start a monastery, and then I'll be a justice of the peace, ordained minister, and I could go ahead and justice of the peace. They're also exempt from prosecution, right? They got immunity too, don't they?
They have immunity from civil for civil liability.
Perfect.
But I don't see merit in. I looked up. I don't think that's right about monks. But if somebody was like you, or if you did get elected as justice of the peace, you could start holding these prosecutors accountable for prosecutorial misconduct and actually throwing their butts in jail.
Excellent.
So
that's right. That would be one of the things that I would be doing. I would actually be fair and have meaningful hearings and, following due process and doing all the things that are right now being denied. One of the things that a judge did one of the last times I was in court when I was objecting as they were dismissing a case for me. I'm like, objection. They're all like, you cannot object. This is a dismissal. You can't object to that. No, that's not the point. I was objecting because you're dismissing it for the wrong reason. It was, like a 3-year-old allegation of riding a bicycle somewhere, and they were dismissing it on some other grounds, and I wanted them to dismiss it for being past the statute of limitations. And he just was talking so damn fast that they didn't, they decided they were going to use this other legal reason to dismiss it, which was 1384, I think is what it was in California. I can't remember.
Well,
but so when I was there, I was started because they ended the they ended the record, so they weren't recording me anymore. They weren't putting it on the record what I was saying, and so they were demanding that I would. I mean, before anything happened, and once again, they waited. I was there at 7 o'clock in the morning. They waited all the way till 2 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody else was gone, and I was just about the only one there. They waited to bring me up in front of the judge, and they were all constantly demanding that I sign a waiver. And the judge told me that no one could come into his court and be heard without signing that waiver. And I thought about it later on, and I thought, he didn't demand, because he was telling me, well, I don't think that would be fair to, or there was a couple other allegations that I wanted them to dismiss, and he wouldn't hear it in his court because they were in a lower court, and I never went to the other lower court to deal with them. But and he said he didn't want to have those matters. At first, he was saying that it was outside his jurisdiction, but that was a county court, and the jurisdiction was a lower court in one of the cities in that county. So I knew that wasn't going to work. He ended up going ahead and telling me that he didn't think it would have been fair to the prosecution if he was to go ahead and hear those other matters. The clerk would not let me put it on the docket. The judge wouldn't let me put it on the docket. And so as far as I know, those matters are still pending, or they're whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't come back to bite you. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, what are they going to do? I'm going to get. I might just get rid of my CDL. I don't know. I mean, I did spend $4,000 on it, but it
may pay dividends soon. So, but I've got to.
Yeah. Good luck.
I got a few other people that want to get in, but I would say no. I wouldn't pursue the monastery and the church thing. I do see merit at the local level. That's why I talk about Larry Krasner. 9 people exonerated the last time I checked. That's great. So if you did get elected as justice of the peace, because I don't think the elections are rigged at the lower level like at the feds, right, with all the and there aren't party affiliations anyway with judges. I would back you in that. I would go get registered to vote if I was in the same county. I doubt you would be doing it in Maricopa.
No, I would not be in Maricopa. That's for sure. I do not want to be in Maricopa.
That's where the worst prosecutors probably are.
They got rid of Joe Arpaio, so but Maricopa's too populated.
Tell me, that's my main thing I don't like about it. I don't like crowds, but I deal with it because the weather, everything is so nice. So.
Well, I'm looking at Apache County.
Okay. That's going to be a lot less populated than Maricopa.
Right. I think there's like 6,000 or 60,000 people in the entire county.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, but that's just layer upon layer upon layer of bullshit onto this. Something might work. Something might stick. It couldn't hurt. Uh, you know, uh, I've always wanted to have a monastery anyway.
Well, if you want a monastery, have a monastery for those purposes and to be a good person, but not for legal purposes. I don't see anything beneficial there. But if that's what you want to do, it makes you happy, great. And let me know more about, and we're in touch regularly. So let me know what you're doing and call again and let us know if you're starting to get the certification for the JP.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking into it. I don't know yet. It's just a thought. That's a long, far up, far and away thought. Right now, I'm more interested in planting food and growing something so that I don't have to keep going to the grocery stores. Maybe getting some ducks or chickens or something.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call.
All right, man. You take care.
You have a good one. Home bumming it now here in Arizona, not in California anymore. And let's see. Well, we've blown past the time from I did last week's show on. So let's see. We will get the. I'm assuming it's okay to use his username here. But we've got the vegan goy cat lover. I think you've been on the show before, so we got the vegan goy. I kind of hear you there. Yeah, hi.
Check the settings real quick. I can't.
Well, we can hear you.
You can. Hold on here. Let's see. Samsung says you can hear.
We're gonna give you a moment to get those things set. And I know I've gotten to a point I don't give a damn about the criticism anymore. I'm used to the avalanche of hate now. It's kind of white noise. Yeah, hello from Long Island. I have, if someone is an anarchist or voluntarist and wants to go to a local office to help, help people and so that there's less damage. I mean, what better way to hold some prosecutors? What a way to hold them accountable to such a degree. Could you imagine the media storm about a justice of the peace in a little town in Arizona that is actually taking prosecutors guilty right in front of them of prosecutorial misconduct and throwing them in jail for contempt? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I rant? I think that's a good thing. Let's see if we've got the vegan goy. We got vegan goy. You all set now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good. Yeah. Where are you calling from?
I can hear you fine. Great. Calling from Sacramento. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing a lot better today. Today.
Well, I had good luck years ago with Pinal County, Arizona. They actually had a sheriff and a county recorder that would actually record documents that the rest of the world said to hell with. So they were a little closer to, if you want to call, a constitutional type of system than any of the crap that's out here today, in my opinion.
Well, I guess I would like to see someone, I see someone like Larry Krasner, or if Home Bumming It became a JP, I see that they're more ethical.
Definitely. Yeah, that's all we need. And we know that we don't have ethics right now. We got the bar and we got a big fat mess. I was calling because I'm in Sacramento and I had dealings with my friends with the California Highway Patrol when they stole my car years ago, and you helped me out. And they sent me a nice letter that said, on my discovery and Brady request, the California Highway Patrol objects to this request on the grounds that you are not entitled to receive discovery pursuant to Penal Code 1054.1 because the CHP is not the prosecuting attorney. Well, is that just crazy? They're basically telling you right there that when you walk in the court, that in traffic court, that it's all the judge.
Yeah, I had a similar thing where I mentioned Mike, good friend down here, also vegan, good guy. And if you're watching, hey, email. It's been a while. The police officer stated that when we requested the discovery from him, which the rules say it's immediately before the hearing, and that's what we were doing, as Pirpan hadn't started the hearing yet. And he says, I'm going to let the judge handle that.
Yep.
Of course, the judge feigned outrage that this cop would say such a thing, didn't do anything about it. So for those who may not be aware that on minor traffic, a lot of times the police are the prosecutors.
Even if I hold a letter from their captain, signed with ink and everything, Captain A.T. Williams of North Area Sacramento, the CHP is not the prosecuting attorney. So who in the F is the prosecuting attorneys that I like to know? But anyway, I was so happy the other day. I was down in Sacramento a week ago and had my camera, and we were out doing a live stream because there was a rally going on. And the rally had a bunch of officers there, and it was like watching the 60s, Mark, walking through there with all those CHP standing there. But the funny thing is well, they didn't do anything to us that time. But then they came back the day before yesterday. There were three or four deep in riot gear for peaceful protesters saying, hey, we don't want to do this crap that Gavin Newsom's doing. You know, he's a dictator. So 3 or 4 deep, helicopter overboard. I wasn't there this time, but I'll be at the next one. And this is, if you go check out, I think A Plain Truth to You. I think Plain Truth 2. I think he has it. Yeah, my channel has it. But they showed this guy that got up the other day, a couple of days ago, and he stood up on a platform. And after the CHP, which is the state police during times of trouble, and also they do fully control the Capitol. So they were out in riot gear. There was not a Sacramento PD or Sacramento sheriff in sight. And so this gentleman got up and he started speaking. And he's a former Marine. Of course, you're not a former Marine, you're always a Marine. And he started speaking. And he started talking about the Constitution. And you and I, Mark, there's no evidence that thing applies to us. But hey, they all play this game and it does. And if they want to play the game that it does, then I'd like to call them on their stupid little oath. So he started talking to them pretty heavy about families, about what they're doing. He also brought up names of Sacramento PD lieutenant that said, we ain't coming to help you and you're not welcome in our jail. So the CHP's out there against the Sacramento Sheriff's Department and the Sacramento PD with the people out here. So I'm thinking it's a pretty good thing, because guess what? After this guy did this speech to these gentlemen, those guys backed off and walked away. The California Highway Patrol stood down. And you're not going to see that on the media. And you're not going to see it too much on YouTube, because they'll get rid of that as quick as possible. But those guys stood down. And I'm not saying that to go, yeah, we hate you. You go lay an egg or something. I'm saying bravo. You guys actually did something legitimate. You know, you stood down. And I'll take any kind of a baby step. And that was a good thing. So he was even saying, oh, this guy ends up being a doctor. He's a physician, the one that was speaking. And so anyway. I thought, it was good. It was a good speech. It was a message to these guys that, hey, there's no sheriff or police around here, are there? It's just you guys, and you don't even control the jail. CHP doesn't even have anything to do with the jail. So anyway, I thought I'd pass that on because I think it's kind of positive, Mark.
Well, anytime they're butting heads like that, like when I discussed earlier, where you have the judges that are. They didn't agree with the prosecutor's office that they are entitled to absolute immunity to do literally whatever the hell they want. And so it's being reported. It's very difficult to really get a lot of fine details. So you look what happened. I was shocked to find out that this man in Georgia, who is the jogger who was murdered by two other men he was just jogging. I was shocked it happened 75 days ago, and they were just arrested this week. And what I'm getting to is that it was reported that the police wanted to arrest them, and they were told by a prosecutor from the prosecutor's office, some woman, her name escapes me. So if somebody has that in the stream, if you could post that, that would be great. The Georgia prosecutor who ordered the police not to arrest those two men. I think it was a father or son who killed an unarmed man who just jogging. I guess his offense was jogging while black. So anytime you've got someone in the government who is, being unethical, violating the principle of live honestly, injure no one, give every man his due. When somebody else on the team opposes that, and it takes a lot to be a whistleblower, whether you're in or out of government. So that good on them for them not to follow orders or to counter. That's a rare thing.
Or maybe what happened is the orders up, because this is the Capitol, they're surrounding Governor Dictator, Governor Nuisance, who's related to Nancy Pelosi. We know the families. Okay, so there was probably communication, and someone was probably watching YouTube, and the high command said stand down. I don't know if these guys actually did stand down, but they did kind of meander away onesie twosie. So, but the good news is they did. They backed down, took off the riot gear, and everybody lived happily ever after this time. So there's another one scheduled for the 23rd of June. I intend to be there.
I just wanted to give the innocent man's name. Give me a second here. I can't mention. Ahmaud Arbery was killed. He was only 25 years old when he was gunned down and murdered. It took 74 days after the murder for the shooters to be arrested. And okay. So, well, I appreciate that. Did you have anything else?
No, and they were releasing people from the jails all along too. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Well, we got to get the people out of the jails. They're sending these people out, and then the people are home doing their fights. So it's a big fat mess. So anyway, I just wanted to follow up with all that, Mark. You got other people to talk to, so thanks for calling. Thanks for talking.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate the call. Vegan Goy in Sacramento. Appreciate the call. I guess they. Okay. Well, we're pretty much out of time anyway, so I don't see the other one on. I guess they dropped off of Skype. No problem. And I know a few people. I don't remember who actually wrote this. I think they may have. They're not on the chat anymore, but it is bewildering, not just to you, but to me, why freemen on land types and sovereign citizen type are attracted to the show when we really don't have much in common, and I don't support that, and I actively oppose that and debunk that kind of stuff. So but you can't control who can control. You see, fat lawyers think you can control who's in the audience. Like I'm somehow responsible for what that racist jackass killer did last year in St. Clair, Michigan, just because he was on the show. It obviously that I had some influence over those horrible actions murderous actions that he took and racist actions that he did. But it takes a very weak mind to try to draw a connection there. I have the links in there. I'll have to make sure. In the chat, I'll have to make sure that those are in the show notes. And I will update the website. I am working with someone. We may be migrating to where it's hosted for free. So we may not lose anything. I do know that a dismissal will probably, from this attack, will probably necessitate, obviously pulling the store down. That's not, I should have already done that, but I'm probably going to have to go through and delete a lot of the shows where I took calls dealing with court. So we'll see, but I will update the website to have this. And I will, since I'll have that open, I will put the show notes in, the time. check back at the website to see if we're going to have a Wednesday show. It might just be every Saturday from now on, but we'll see. We'll see. It seems like most people, the few people that responded to the last show, man, that last show had bad numbers. Holy crap. That was really, really discouraging. But I think this is a content-wise is a much, much, much better show than last one. So hopefully the numbers reflect that too. But I'll keep you updated. I'm very tempted to email this fat, bald lawyer who is just compelled to file a complaint against me, the predator, to see if he's actually going to file complaints against the New Orleans District Attorney's Office. Because, wow. Rule 3.1, that lying actually and then it could be mail fraud. I don't know how they got the subpoenas to people, but it's a separate crime to simulate a judicial process. I know. What is his head going to explode? Is that legal advice to say that's simulating legal process is a crime? It's at least a misdemeanor, and they did it how many times to these poor victims? So I always just stay out of Louisiana. I had a cousin that would drive out to Arizona when he was moving out in the 90s. He'd always have to get a rent-a-car when he got into Louisiana so that he had Louisiana plates. Because the one thing you don't want to do, you certainly don't want to drive to Louisiana with New York plates. That, I think we can all agree that would be a really stupid thing. You're getting stopped. And if you're not white, you will get stopped without a state plates. So he would have to, on his way out, if he had to go through Louisiana, he always stopped and got a rent-a-car in Louisiana. Well, you swap out the rent-a-car. Yeah. Hey, so yeah, I will put the links in there. I want to be able to read the actual document, so you can see the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals decision there. Again, I'm not too hopeful that if it is appealed, that the Supreme Court won't bend over backwards for these prosecutors. There'll be a classic 5-4 decision. But they have to be able to do their job without fear of reprisal and lawsuits. And if that means that a prosecutor can fake judicial process and usurp the power of a court, then so be it, because it's not like they really are usurping the judicial power. They literally are officers and counselors of the judicial branch. So they're really, because they're part of the judicial branch, they can't really be accused of usurping that power because they are part of that branch. And if anyone wants to see the evidence, well, what do you mean they're literally officers and counselors of the court? Go look. They take a literal oath of office, the same oath of office practically as any government employee. And just because they're not paid directly, well, prosecutors are paid by the government, but they are officers and counselors of the court. So wear yourself out, all you lawyers screaming frivolous and whatnot. Those are the facts. Those be the facts. Well, I appreciate everyone tuning in today. I think we covered a lot of good ground, a lot of good material. Hey, and leave in the comments if what you think. Do you think that this fat, bald lawyer from Kansas, who's a member of the Texas Bar Association, he teaches at a university in Kansas, do you think he's going to go and be compelled to file complaints against these lawyers for sending fake subpoenas? You think he'd put himself in the position of a defense lawyer? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think this fat bowl lawyer is going to be compelled to file again, complaints with the Louisiana bar against these prosecutors. I like to see, I like to see that. Yes, we're back. Anyway, we'll probably be back on Wednesday, but check markstevens.net. for the show times. I'll have that up there. If it hasn't changed, then we'll see you Wednesday. If I don't see you Wednesday, then we will be back next Saturday. Until then, salud.